Hey everybody, it's time to pull up a cup for the InPower Coffee Break. We do this live every Tuesday, 1 to 1:30 Eastern Time, and we're recorded on Apple iTunes podcast and YouTube video. And we cover topics here at InPower Coaching that really run the gamut around personal power and internal power, personal power techniques to really survive and thrive in your career and in your life and the way they fit together. And that's why we're here today to explore Jessica Olmon's philosophy and approach around 100% responsibility, which is going to be so exciting. I'm Dana Theus with InPower Coaching, here with Mary Brody of InPower Coaching and Jessica Olmon, and we'll introduce her in just a moment. But we invite you to join us live in the conversation every Tuesday at coffeebreak.inpowercoaching.com. You can find information about upcoming topics and information about how to join us live, as well as ways to get reminders and invitations to these events. So why don't you go ahead and introduce Jessica, Mary, and we will jump into the topic.
Wonderful. So Jessica Olmon is the founder and managing attorney of the Vero Law Group, a boutique transactional firm that helps entrepreneurs and CEOs build successful businesses. The firm represents startups, small and mid-sized companies as outside general counsel. Jessica is an innovator in providing legal services by focusing on business transformation. She has created new expectations for clients in regards to the benefits they should get from the business attorney-client relationship. Jessica formed Vero Law Group because she had a vision of creating a new era law firm where business attorneys make major contributions to their clients' growth. Before starting the Vero Law Group in June 2011, Jessica was an associate in the corporate department of the Los Angeles office at the international firm of Fulbright and Jaworski LLP, now Norton Rose Fulbright. She worked with companies of all sizes in the areas of mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance, licensing, and a variety of other commercial transactions. Jessica's passion is to help entrepreneurs find success and freedom through their business. She accomplishes this through Vero Law and as a mentor herself, having recently created an actionable entrepreneur success program, course corrected, set to launch earlier this next year in 2017. Jessica has been recognized as a woman making a difference by the Los Angeles Business Journal, a top attorney by Pasadena Magazine, and a Southern California rising star by Super Lawyers Magazine. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Mary and Dana. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Jessica, I don't even know where to start. When I was reading about you, I had all these things firing off, everything from women's leadership to new ways to think about entrepreneurship to just your life sounds interesting. And this 100% responsibility thing, it's a core InPower principle. So, of course, that really lit up right away. And I want to talk about all of those things. But where I want to start is I want to start with a question about who you are. And what I mean by that is that in what Mary just read about you, we see an attorney, we see a woman, we see someone evolving their own business, a small business owner. We see a teacher, somebody trying to teach and reach, others. And we see somebody who's strong, who's personally strong. And so I want you to describe, who am I? Who is Jessica Olmon as all of these things? And where are you on your journey right now?
Okay. So I would say who is Jessica Olmon at the core and the foundation. I'm someone who's always working to grow and change and honestly to live my life to the fullest. And that really is what has brought me through all of the changes and the different experiences that I've had so far in life. And then as far as teaching people, the thing that I'm professionally the most inspired to do is to help people create and keep freedom in their lives. And that has been through having a successful business. And for me, a successful business is one that serves someone both with their profits and also with having the lifestyle that they want. So I've been really inspired to find new ways and better ways to help serve people on that level.
That's great. I love that. It actually sounds a lot like how I think of myself. So talk to us about this 100% responsibility idea, because it sounds, just reading about you a little bit, it sounds like that might have been core to a shift in your life.
Yes, 100%. Yes. So, originally I was working at this job at a big law firm, and kind of to the outsider and from everyone else's perspective, it looked like I had arrived in life, with the big salary, the office views of the Hollywood Hills, this, law firm getting amazing training, which I did. But the truth was that I was really unhappy. And there were a lot of things in my life where a lot of places in life, including in my job, where I was blaming other people for the circumstances that I found myself in. So, for example, I felt like if my partner at that time was making more money at his job, that I could leave my job and do something that I wanted to be doing. And this was really, consistent throughout my whole life, of just completely unaware that I was blaming all these other people for my circumstances. And eventually I did decide to just kind of take charge and leave my job. And the motivation for that was that I had my daughter, and I found myself thinking, am I going to raise her to think that the way you have to live your life is just to grind it out in this job and a career that you hate? And I had been feeling that, for years before. And finally, this one experience woke me up enough to leave to start this business. But in the beginning of having the business, I didn't have the results that I wanted. And as you know, kind of with our own companies, the only person that we have to look to is ourselves. And so I had this, revelation that I had to change who I was being in order to change my business. And I would say that was the beginning of me starting to take this responsibility in life.
That's really interesting, because I know people, I think we all do, who are in a similar situation where the rest of us would look at them and go, you have no one to blame but yourself. But they still blame other people, right?
Yes.
Somehow they find a way.
Yes. Yes. Well, what's interesting is that our society actually really encourages people to not take responsibility. We have, I think, a big kind of, I want to say victim mentality just to describe it. Not that people are victims or are even operating with that kind of thinking, but there's a lot of things in our society that encourages people to think about, outside of themselves, what's causing my results, my experiences, my life. And the reality that I've come to see is that, we're all actually creating our own lives all the time. And so I think of that as like an artist. We all are doing the same thing. It's just whether we're aware of it or not, depends a lot on the results. But ultimately, we're all creating our own lives. And when we start to embrace this concept of taking responsibility for that creation, it's one of the most empowering things I think anybody could do in their life.
I agree with you. And also, first of all, half of what you said, I could have said to describe my life. And I think Mary could too. When you are in a corporate situation that you realize isn't letting you be who you want to be and do what you want to do, it's very uncomfortable. And when you go out on your own, it's also very uncomfortable. And a lot of people either don't understand that till they get there, or they feel betrayed by the entrepreneurial dream. That's another discussion we might get to. But what I was going to say was the victim mentality versus, I'm responsible. What do you think it is that holds people back from taking full responsibility?
Well, actually it can be a really painful process. And I will say that it was for me, definitely, because in order to embrace this philosophy in the very beginning, we have to start to look at all the things we don't like in our own life and come to the realization that I'm either creating this, or at least at a minimum accepting this in my life. And so for most people who have a lot of things that they don't like in their life, or they wish were different, or they have dreams about something else, to begin there is really painful. And to be honest with you, some of my legal clients, I mentioned to you when we were first talking, I started doing this consulting with people, and I realized I can talk to them and pretty quickly realize if this is going to be a person who's open to going there, or if it's more a person they just don't even want to go there, in which case I can leave it and we can just stick to the legal work, which is fine. But I would say most people in my experience, maybe 90% of people that I come across, really don't even want to go into what we're talking about in their own life. because I think a lot of people have heard of this concept. And even if you bring it up to people, most people would probably say, oh yeah, I take 100% responsibility in my life. But when we actually get into seeing the ways that things in their life might be playing out that they don't like, that are caused by them, that's where the conversation shifts.
So first of all, I really appreciate what you're saying about, the way I say it to people is, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. Meaning, like we all participate in all of our success and all of our problems, as does the world, right? So we do stuff and the world does stuff, and somewhere along the way that becomes wonderful success and terrible failure. And our contribution to all of that is all we control. And that's the key. When you take responsibility for your half of all of that success and all of that problem,
Yes, exactly.
then you can make forward progress. But you have to stop blaming everybody else so that you can focus on what you do influence.
Yes.
And what I'm really interested in also is how you've applied this in a legal context. I mean, I do that with my clients from a coaching context, either about their career, about their, leadership efficacy or whatever. So what does that look like in a legal context when you're trying to help somebody both legally, but also it sounds like you have a mission beyond just the legal stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So let me give an example. Let's say that someone comes to me and they're having a fallout with their partner. And so some of the work that I would, a business,
not divorce.
Yeah, no, not personal business.
But those can feel like a divorce, though.
It is. The business partnership is, I always say, like a professional marriage. So they come to me and they're having the fallout with a business partner. And one of the things that we do would be to help them come to a resolution or at least negotiate some kind of settlement. So we don't do anything to do with going to court. I'm trying to help them avoid that. And in taking 100% responsibility, let's say we also look at their situation with the business partner and find that they never signed good quality partnership documents, or maybe they got something off the internet, but it wasn't customized for their deal. So how can the person coming to me take responsibility if they want to in this situation? They can take responsibility by looking back to see, oh, well, I chose not to invest in working with a good business attorney to help me when I was setting up this partnership. Or, let's say even if they did do that and they have great documentation, where was the fallout happening in the relationship? What could they have either changed, or what could they learn from the experience to do next time? So a big thing that I want to acknowledge and just accentuate here is this isn't about blaming yourself or beating up on yourself, which I know a lot of times, we as human beings could do. It's, for me, more about learning, more about personal growth, and more about realizing in every way I'm in charge of my own life. Even if, we have to take the most extreme circumstance and everything was done perfectly, even if the only thing that we can come up with is, how am I reacting in this situation? Because sometimes there are situations we really cannot find any other place to take responsibility, but we always have control of our own reaction.
I just have to say, this is so refreshing to hear coming from a lawyer. I live in DC and I've worked in DC for a long time. Most lawyers don't talk like you.
No, I know.
I grew up in LA though.
Okay, good. Yeah.
There's a lot of lawyers that don't talk like that there either. But
well, I always say it, one of the greatest compliments that I get is people are like, you don't seem like a lawyer.
Exactly. But you don't, because it sounds to me like you're using the law and the legal frameworks to help people, get closer to where they want to go, yeah, both personally and obviously in their business as well. And that's hugely refreshing to me.
Thank you.
What brought you to this place? Was there, you talked about how you decided to quit, but on this level of wanting to do more with the law than just, negotiate contracts and reach into people's lives, where does that come from? Were you always trying to do that? Did you have an epiphany?
Well, let's see. Originally, I would say this all came out of me realizing, so, well, let me back up and say, when I first started my business, I started it in the basement of my house, my law firm. And I told you I was really struggling with the results, and I started to see, I had to change who I was being. But in the first place, I thought, if only I knew kind of strategically how to build a law firm, if someone would come in and say, okay, Jessica, you need to do this to get clients, and you need to use this software, and, go to this office, you'll have a great business. And I realized pretty soon after that really wasn't the problem at all, because someone could tell me all of the strategic business advice in the world, but if I was still the same person, I would never actually take the steps that needed to be taken for my specific circumstances to build the law firm and have the success that I wanted to have. And so what I see with entrepreneurs, as I'm sure you do too, is that a lot of people are stuck in that place of thinking, and I guess it applies to everybody, even aside of entrepreneurs. A lot of people are stuck in the place of thinking, oh, well, I could change my life if only I knew how. But the reality is that we have the power to change who we are. And in that process of making the change, we can figure out what's the next step for the how, and then change our lives. So the information needed is really not how do I get to where I want to go, but more who do I have to become that's a person that has this result that I want, or this dream that I want to achieve.
You're absolutely right. And that certainly was my journey. And I know that until you get to that point where what you're saying is true, and not everybody can hear it right now, because sometimes you have to keep making the same mistake enough until you can see the mistake you're making and understand that the shift is coming inside you. So the whole thing of like, you can run away from it, but it's going to follow you. So you can go move to Germany. Whatever it is you haven't fixed here is following you. You can divorce that guy and marry that guy. Certain things are going to follow you. And at some point you start to see that and go, oh, maybe it's not them, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
But it takes life experience to see those things.
I agree. And I had a long time where I couldn't wrap my mind around this concept of you have to become the person who has the result that you want to have. And so the way I've worked it out in my mind now, I guess, is that this is a combination of two things. The first is gaining knowledge. So we have to accumulate a new level of knowledge, and that could be on, business strategy, that could be on mindset about certain things, but accumulating knowledge is one level. And then the next level is, so how do I take that to integrate into my life and change my life? And I think the biggest factor in this that would hold people back from making a change to achieve their dreams and from taking 100% responsibility would be that your life has to change for you to change. Or put another way, to get a different result, your life will have to change. You'll have to change in some way. And I think that can be really hard for people, in the same way that starting to look at my life and see, where am I not taking responsibility for my results is also difficult. So there's this hard period that most people don't want to go through, understandably, completely, that is necessary in order to move yourself out of the same results, same circumstances that you're experiencing right now.
Agreed. And actually, I think that the key to that, when I first made this shift, somebody asked me, I was talking about these are all my problems, blah, 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 blah. And somebody said, okay, that's probably true. Are you ready to let that go? And like, I mean, are you ready to just get past that and just be past that? To your point, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I am. And like right in that moment, now it still took me years of letting go of all the pieces, but in that moment, something important broke. It was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm ready to not be looking at those things anymore. And then all of a sudden, those other possibilities open up.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us about course correction, because it sounds to me like this is a way for you to reach and help people beyond just like doing their contracts. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So Course Corrected is a course that I created, and I was really motivated to do this for probably a year and a half before I actually created it. But what I saw is that there are 3 areas that every entrepreneur has to master in order to build a successful business. And those are mindsets. So how do you have to change your thinking to reach a new level of success, which is exactly what we've been talking about now. Business strategy is becoming a business person. Most of us have some kind of skill or even a product that we sell, but being the business person is a whole new skill and venture. And then legal, understanding how the law affects your business. And I also wrapped into that negotiation. So it's a course really designed for two types of people. The one would be someone who's still at a job, but really wants to start a business and getting this hugely important information on how to be successful in starting that venture. And then the other would be a small business entrepreneur. Usually I work with service providers who really are kind of struggling with the business. It's more like a job, and they really want to take it to the next level, meaning they really want to create the business probably that they started out to create, which is one that serves them financially and so that they have the lifestyle they want.
In that latter category, I know I've been making this shift. I don't want to say painfully, but I've been making it in stages between like, okay, I sell my time, I'm a contractor, and I run a business, so I spend time that I'm not getting paid for, but against a product or a service or an initiative or something that will bring me business. And there's a very different mindset between selling your time and creating a business with a product or service. Bigger than I ever thought, even though I've done both.
Yes, exactly. Someone just summarized the course the other day as, becoming the CEO of your business, because there's a big mindset shift that happens in that process. And with the mindset shift, then comes the change in how you spend your time and money.
Right, because you have to start thinking in terms of investments,
yes,
as opposed to time.
Yes, exactly. And I think that point on trading your time for money is a big shift also, because, if we're starting out as employees, or even a lot of times people start out in kind of a role in their own business, acting like an employee, but we're trained and socialized to be, as attorneys, let's say we're clocking every 6 minutes of our time and we're paid based on our time. I mean, there's a big awareness around time and what that equals for money. And I had heard, in the past, an entrepreneur thinks of, well, an employee trades their time for money, an entrepreneur trades their money for time. And I think that's, a really important shift to start to go through to have the business success that I think most people want.
I can't believe it. We're almost out of time. But this is leading to a theme that we're going to be focusing on more and more in the coming year about, the free agent economy, the gig economy, people who think about themselves as, okay, I want to say this right. So the people who go from a shift of I'm an employee to I'm responsible for myself. And sometimes they go back to being an employee. Sometimes they go on to build a business. But that shift in either direction to I'm really responsible for myself is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And more people are running into that when they realize, right now people are employed for on average 3 to 3.5 years at any one job. So if we live to be 90, that's what, like 20 or 30 jobs, right? So all of a sudden it's not about the job, it's about me. And like, what does this job do for me in this 2 or 3 year period? And so that's the definition of a contractor, even if you're serially employed, right?
Yes.
On long term. And at some point, a lot of people go, well, wait a minute, maybe I should just stay on my own. And so we're trying to wrap our heads around how do we support people in this world where you're living through these roles, the series of roles, serial employment. and you're kind of bringing up another dimension of that, which is, how do you think about it from the legal and business standpoint? We look at it from the intrapersonal standpoint, right? And like, who do you want to be? And then what do you need to equip yourself with internally? And you're talking about what do you need to equip yourself with externally to be successful? And so maybe we should have a whole nother conversation about that and dive into those two different dimensions a little more.
I would love that. Anytime.
Well, in the last few minutes, let me ask you this. So, first of all, tell us what's the website for Course Corrected if people are interested.
It's www.coursecorrected.com. And someone can sign up for a breakthrough session with me if they think this might possibly be a good avenue for them at coursecorrected.com/appointment.
Okay. And it sounds like you're offering sort of legal/business advisory services and programming through that. Is that the way to think
Well,
about it?
actually, so legal services are completely separate. My law firm is Vero Law Group, and that, I have had some clients who become clients on the consulting side with me through the law firm, but this is really a separate venture. And I would say in it, big picture, I'm teaching on the law and how it affects someone's business, but for actual legal services would be separate through the law firm.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
Just in closing, what advice would you give to someone who is considering, going out on their own, but isn't sure they want to do it? Like, what should they be thinking about?
What should they be thinking about? I am a firm believer that the whispers of desire that we have inside really point the way to our purpose. And I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs now in the past 5 years of having my firm and doing the consulting. And the thing that I see is that the most successful and content people that I've worked with are the ones who consistently pay attention to this little voice, these desires inside, and then follow them. And so if we can take the time to actually, be quiet or go inside and spend a moment really thinking about, okay, is this something that I want? Do I feel compelled to do this? Or is it more kind of something from out here that's pulling me into it? I would say is the fastest and most accurate way to make that decision. And if it is something that you find that you have a desire to do, the one thing that I know for sure is that if you have a dream of having a successful business, one that serves you with money and the lifestyle that you want, it's absolutely possible for anyone. And you have to, figure out how to make it happen for you. But I would say, working with mentors, getting information, and starting to look at yourself and your own life are the fastest ways to make that happen.
I like that advice. We have an InPower principle called choosing joy. And it's just in any point in time, you have two paths at least, maybe more. If you pick the more joyful one and you do that consistently over time, your path ends up being something that's more joyful.
Yes, I love that idea. It's like we have all these, there might be the joyful path, but we have this voice in the head that's, oh, you should do this, or you can't do that, or that's too scary, and all this kind of exterior chatter that might pull people away from the joyful path. But I love that idea and the way you phrased it.
The other part of it, of course, is success is messy, and it's not always gonna feel joyful, and it's not always gonna feel easy.
It's not, but it's hugely satisfying.
Exactly. Success is not about easy and rich and all those things. It's about satisfaction and joy and progress.
Yeah. And living a life with purpose,
living a life with purpose.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. This has been delightful. I totally want to have you back and have this conversation I don't know, Mary and I are still trying to come up with, is it the gig economy? Is it the free agent economy? What's the way to think about this new world that we're in?
Well, I would love to be part of the discussion. So thank you. It's been a delight to be here.
We will absolutely have you back for that. No question. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Mary. Thanks to everyone who's listening and watching. And thanks for tuning into this episode of the InPower Coaching Coffee Break. And please visit us at coffeebreak.InPowerCoaching.com and sign up for reminders so you can come into the conversation and join us live or catch us on the recordings. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.